The mission of police officers is to prevent crime and save lives.
Policing is a very difficult job. You are worried about the public safety, policy, state law, and on top of this, you are thinking about these things while you're driving in heavy traffic, while your radio is going off.
It's very hard. Having a technology platform to help make your job easier is so important for us.
You're thinking of 1,001 things at all times. Where Patrolfinder can come in that area is doing the little things like showing us attention points and past incidents, showing us the best route to a scene. And I can pull up Patrolfinder, I can see where the marked units are, and maybe I can plan on when I am going to take some action.
Patrolfinder for the Schenectady Police Department is our means of communicating with our officers, giving them the information that they need, and staying connected with all other departments within the organization.
Patrolfinder can help us with being able to identify in real time the locations of responding resources. As a supervisor, I can look at a map and see where those units are coming from, and the responding officers will have that information available to them at the exact same time as they respond, so they know how far away is their backup.
When we pull up Patrolfinder, we can look at the screen. You can easily see the areas where there are officers, and you can tell where there are not officers.
Say I wasn't dispatched to this call and I heard it go out, I can just come in, go onto Patrolfinder and see that we have, 6 officers at the scene. I can now rove about and look for the suspect or try to find the victim, depending on the circumstances of the call.
You can easily see the areas where it's overlaid on a map, and that just enables us to be able to tell which direction officers are coming from, where they are on perimeters, where there might be a hole in the perimeter that we need to fill. We also have the ability to click on the car icon and we can see the officer's name. That all helps us understand where our resources are, what they're doing, and how we can utilize them.
If you expand upon that into a context of like critical incident management, Patrolfinder can give us the ability to visualize in real time what is needed whether that's on setting a perimeter in the appropriate place or knowing that the location that we've chosen is in a good spot relative to the things that are around us. This is no longer something that you have to contextualize within your mind. With Patrolfinder, you can visually see it.
Patrolfinder is going to give command officers information that right now they just don't have at their disposal. They're going to be able to look up and see where officers have been and how often they've been there.
All right, so these points here are areas where an officer is not gone in approximately 24 hours. There's many other points within the city that officers have been to, and they're actually not visible because they are disappeared.
When we come on to shift, we log into Patrolfinder. We'll go to the patrol map, start our patrol, and then we'll toggle through the bulletins and the attention points. That way we can see if there's anything of importance in our zone that happened while we weren't working.
So one of the functions through the mapping program is that there are patrol points that display on the map, and you can visually see if a patrol officer has been on a particular street.
Most patrol points are a small circle. But we have an area where it's experienced a high amount of gun crime recently. In that area, the patrol points are triangles.
One of the best parts about Patrolfinder is that it shows us where we haven't necessarily patrolled yet. The patrol points on the map that are easy to just look down and see, it'll show us like, oh, we haven't hit, say, Hewlett Street in a couple days.
So we may be able to look at a neighborhood and say, hey, a cop should roll through this neighborhood once every 24 hours, give or take. But we might have a need in another neighborhood where someone really needs to be there every 2 hours or every 4 hours. And then on the admin side, when we're watching from the office, we can see if someone's been there, if they're keeping up on it, or if we need to redirect more resources there.
The heat map is showing by a color shading where we have gone and where we need to go. So our most recent areas you'll see are lighter colored, and the darker areas are areas that we haven't been to in a significant amount of time.
We're actually just passing a patrol point right now, looks like, at the William Keene School, which is actually on Albany Street. We're on State Street right now, but it's kind of right across from us on Albany Street for a person annoying. It looks like it was an active call that's already been cleared out, but I can see that the officer who responded and the call notes right here, so I can get a description of the individual. If they say I see them passing on a separate street other than the one that the call came in on, I can see that and give that information to the other officer that's on the call or was on the call.
We have certain attention points that we feel important that stay on the map, such as a weapons call that had happened in the last few days, a safety issue for the officers. So it absolutely does increase officer safety because they can view that information on a map where they weren't able to before.
If a attention point exists, it means an officer hasn't been there. If the attention point is enlarged as compared to the other attention points, it means an officer hasn't been there in 6 days.
When someone calls the police, that creates an attention point. It's similar to a patrol point, but it has more data associated with it. So if you call the police, it will automatically create an attention point. It will go on the map. Other officers can see it. They can click on it. They can look at pictures. They can look at notes, dates and times.
By adding the visual element to the dispatch response and even pending calls for service in our city has allowed officers to sort of cherry pick as they go throughout their day the things that need attention that they haven't yet gotten to.
Coming up on an attention point here.
And so in terms of equitable policing, I think being able to distribute our people throughout the city amongst the various demands and needs is an important aspect of what we strive for. But the reality is sometimes in some places, and even in the case of some individuals, we are demanded to be in places more often than in others. And that's not to say that we don't care about other areas in the city. It's just hard to maybe get there, and it's easy to forget about, maybe responding to a specific street or the far reaches of the city's jurisdiction, or maybe that dead end, block that you don't have a lot of police activity on, but the people probably appreciate seeing a patrol presence in.
I do think it's important to be able to see these patrol points, because with our call volume, which is fairly high, you kind of get lost in the day-to-day answering calls, and you can't necessarily get to these patrol points and show the public and the community that we're here, show our presence, and give them that sense of security.
If there's a complaint about a certain zone, or somebody claims they were over-policed or under-policed, or we're not bringing resources to a neighborhood that needs them, we can now look at the data and we can say whether or not that's true.
For me as a supervisor, being able to look at a map and identify maybe where we've been lagging and getting our people to.
Members of a community need to see a police officer for them to feel safe, or at least seeing a police officer gives them a sense of safety. It also tells the bad guys that the police are around, so if they're thinking about looking in a window or possibly committing a crime, maybe they think twice about it.
A part of Patrolfinder that helps with the community is when you have a crime that's not solved. It's kind of disappointing to tell somebody, hey, it's going to be pretty difficult to solve this crime. But we use Patrolfinder now. We can make a bulletin. We can say, hey, we're going to put this out to all the officers. Whatever video footage that came from your camera at your house or of the suspect or the crime that was committed, we can share this with everybody now. And there's a good chance that somebody's going to recognize this suspect, or somebody's going to be able to help solve this crime. Before, it might have been a little difficult to do that. So that's definitely helped, I think, the community to know that we're sharing information, that we're trying to be smart in solving crime, and even at the smallest level, for the smallest crimes.
When we load up Patrolfinder, we can just access the bulletins page here, and officers can input extra attention points and anything for officer awareness that they feel pertinent for the next officer to see.
So it's very easy to create bulletins in Patrolfinder, where I can put information out to officers. I can pick the date and time where I want that information to go out. I can pick the date and time where I want the information to become inactive. I can easily update it. It's really a great tool for an administrator or for supervisors, because we now know there's one program where we're putting this information out. Every officer can log in and see it.
Say I wasn't working that day and there was an assault in my zone, someone got stabbed or shot, and a detective interviewed the victim or suspect and garnered more information than, say, the patrol officer could at that time. The detective can then input that information into Patrolfinder, and me coming in off my days off, who, you know, I didn't even know that there was an assault in my zone, can click the attention points or bulletins and say, oh, there was an assault on Becker Street, and now I have all the information that not only the patrol officers got, but also that the detectives garnered.
You're not showing up to a call by yourself, or if, you know, there's something going on, you have an idea of where your backup units are, or additional, you know, resources are. And then on top of that, if somebody, you know, calls off on a foot pursuit and it doesn't go very clear over the radio, you can just see where that officer's car is parked and kind of start, you know, heading towards that general direction until you can get some, you know, further information from dispatch where they're running to or whatever. At least you have an idea of where in the city they are.
On the other side of that, when I create a bulletin, sometimes there might be no activity on a topic for a couple weeks, and I may get some information on the case later on. I can go into Patrolfinder and easily find my bulletin, update it, and bring it back to the top to make everyone aware of that information.
So when I do lineup, I step to the front of the room, I pull up Patrolfinder, I'll use the information that I have from the most recent bulletins, and that includes information being sought by detectives for investigations. And then on the other side, any extra attention information or information that needs to be shared that was requested through our dispatchers to be entered as like items of interest.
If we talk about it in lineup, and some officers may have missed lineup, or we talked about it the day before, we didn't talk about it the day after, they can still log into Patrolfinder, easily find the bulletin.
With Patrolfinder, if we have information that has been made available to our officers and they're asked to access it, there's almost no excuse anymore not to have it. Whereas before, there may have been lapses in who received what information and when. And once we've had our people post bulletins or requests on that board so that it's in a place where they have access to it when they log in every day, it's right there at their fingertips. And the other beautiful thing about it is if we don't have any time, which happens from time to time, we give our people their assignments and we tell them that they have to go. As soon as they log in, they can access that information too.
Patrolfinder has made it easier to get the information from prior shifts to the next shift. So while an officer might not have the opportunity to speak face-to-face with the officer who worked the last beat, they can log into the program and they can see where officers have been, and more importantly, you can see where officers have not been.
Sometimes you find that information exists in silos and compartmentalized depending on your specialty bureau or what it is that you're working on, or even down to the case. And in the case of having an application like what Patrolfinder offers, just on an intel side, we're able to access information and share information amongst agency members, regardless of what those positions are.
Back when I started, if an officer wanted to be proactive, they might have to get on the computer, they might have to run some reports, they might have to put an address in to see if an officer was there earlier in the day. Now with Patrolfinder, they have the ability to populate calls for service on a map, and with one click of the mouse, they can see what that call was all about. They can pull over and read the notes of the call.
So from a recruitment standpoint, making sure that we're giving our people all of the best tools that they can have at their disposal to go out and carry out their duties every day, this is one of those things.
286 Altamont Ave for an auto accident.
The use case of Patrolfinder that we've been pushing here at the Schenectady Police Department is to utilize the technology to be able to cover as many streets in your zone as possible, with the idea of reducing crime by being visible. Now, what we have seen by officers utilizing Patrolfinder to its fullest, crime has been reduced. We see less crime. There's even one scenario where a store has been shut down because of the amount of time we've patrolled an area and we knew that the store was part of the criminal enterprise that was occurring in the area. It seems like the criminals are using technology faster than we are keeping up with it. It's high time for us to actually use technology to do a better job than they are.